But we'll try this. Jacob's calling in from New Jersey. Jacob's a theist, pronouncing him, who wants to prove the existence of a creator God. How you doing, Jacob?
Hello, how are you?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm great. So I'd first like to preface this a little bit about myself. So I just want to give you a little bit of background where I'm coming from. So I was
Is it
grown up.
relevant? Is your background at all relevant to proving the existence of a creator God?
Uh, well, I believe you might be a little more susceptible to my argument if you maybe hear this a little bit. Just want
Well,
to
that sounds to
feel
me
like
like a fallacy. Like, if your argument is evidence based on its own, your backstory,
look,
anything that your backstory should do to convince us would be an unfair prejudice that isn't relevant to the argument, right?
it is not relevant to the argument. It was just a little bit of small talk here. But if we
Yeah,
want to skip
I
the
don't have the
niceties,
time, or I don't have the time or frankly interest in small talk. If you can demonstrate, prove a creator God, go for it. That's what Promise and I are here for.
well, we are on a YouTube show, so okay. Here, I'll give you an argument. So, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. Everything must require a creator. Can we agree on that?
No. And if
No.
you're sure we've heard something a million times, I don't know why you'd start with it, but when you say
Well,
everything must
because
require, when you say everything must require a creator, does that include God?
well, yes. So does it not? For
I don't know.
everything to
I'm
exist,
not convinced. I'm not convinced that
is
everything
there not a
requires it.
principle?
I'm so
There not a
Jacob,
principle of
Jacob,
causality?
Jacob, I'm not convinced that everything requires a creator as long as you're defining creator as a consciously acting agent.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that something must have created something for it to exist or come from it. A creator requires a meteor.
A creator requires what?
I think he said
A
crater.
crater.
A crater requires a meteor. He's implying. But what if the crater was made by something else, not a meteor? How do you
Yes, of course,
determine
because
what
they might something
caused
else,
the
but the
impact?
principle of it that there's causality.
Okay.
Just yes or no.
N-
So our understanding of causality is tied to observations within the local presentation of our universe, and you cannot extrapolate beyond the bounds of the universe to even talk about causation.
But within the universe, there is causation.
Okay. Did the universe require a cause?
Well, of course.
How do you know that? If we just agreed that within the universe you're talking about causation, but you can't talk about causation beyond the universe, how can you say the universe requires the cause?
Well, would the universe not have required have a point of beginning? It must have started to exist at some time.
No, it mustn't.
I don't know why I have to believe that.
Well, are you familiar with Hilbert's Hotel paradox?
Yes. And by the way, various paradoxes involving infinities are irrelevant to the facts of whether or not the universe has always existed or whether it began to exist.
Well, it certainly had always. It could not have always existed. It must have
How do you know
began
that?
existing.
How do you know that, Jacob?
Because time is not infinite. It must have began somewhere. It could not have. It is infinite.
Our current understanding of time is that space-time expanded with our universe, but we cannot explore prior to the Planck time to talk about time or metatime or beyond time beyond the universe. So whether or not time in our local presentation had a point of beginning is independent from whether or not the universe always existed in some form or another. When you assert that the universe cannot have always existed, what's the reason for that?
Well, because time is continuous.
No, I'm sorry, Jacob, but we're talking about the universe. We're not talking about time. Time is a function within the universe as we perceive time. What is your demonstration? How did you explore beyond the bound? How did you explore beyond the bound of the universe to know that the universe must have had a beginning?
Well, because the time exists outside of the universe.
I'm sorry,
The
Jacob,
universe
but I
exists
don't give a
within time.
shit how many times you say time. I'm asking you about the universe.
Well, I don't give a shit if you're asking about that because clearly the
Okay.
question is within the universe.
No, it's not. When you assert that the universe could not have always existed, we are no longer talking about within the universe. You are asserting that there must be something beyond the universe that started the universe. So you cannot
Yes,
say we're
but to
talking.
do that,
No,
we have to first
shut
agree on
up.
something of the universe.
Shut up. You cannot
So
say
you
we're
need some
talking
manners.
about. Okay, I'm going to teach you some manners right now. Welcome to mute. You are an incredibly sloppy arguer here who does not understand this and has not been through it 100,000 times like the rest of us have. You just said that we're talking about time and therefore within the universe, but you're asserting things about whether or not the universe had a beginning or some external cause. The external cause of the universe are not in any way tied to any observation within the universe. Okay. I know you're muted and can't reply, but I don't want to be the only one talking here. And my take on this may be different from Promises. So before we unmute you to teach you a good little lesson about letting us finish our thought, Promise, how are you?
I'm doing well. I feel like we're hearing a precept, but we're not getting answers to the questions. So I don't know exactly what this argument it is yet.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything presuppositional about it itself, but the flavor of the talking is it's more along the lines of I heard something and I have a minimal understanding of it, and so I'm extrapolating
Yeah.
because we know about contingency and we know about causality, and we only know about it
Right.
within the bounds of our universe. I'm asking, how can you explore beyond the universe to find out whether or not the universe necessarily existed forever, whether or not it necessarily began at some point, whether or not how and why time works or metatime outside of the bounds of the universe. And Jacob,
Right.
when I ask, how do you know the universe had a beginning, just keeps going to time. But time is a presentation within our local observation of the universe. So, Jacob, how did you explore beyond the bounds of the universe?
Well, while in the universe, you can extrapolate on the outsides of it, as we can do
No,
with many things.
no, you can't. You can't demonstrate what's beyond the universe.
Not empirically,
Sure.
but philosophically we can.
No. That's not how you demonstrate things. That's just wild ass speculation. Until you can demonstrate it's true, you do not get to assert facts about the universe.
You are saying that we need it to be a fact, an empirically observed fact.
I'm saying that you need to be able to demonstrate it, not just navel gaze and think about it and convince yourself that you've reached a conclusion when you have no way to explore it. How many universes do we have access to, Jacob?
So if you're grounding,
I'm sorry,
this,
Jacob, I
that
just asked
needs
a
to have some
question.
sort of-
Jacob, I just asked a question, and that was how many universes do we have to explore?
Well, I've no clue. There could be infinite universes.
No, I'm sorry, Jacob. The question, if you'd actually listen very carefully, is how many universes do we have to explore?
Do we have to explore?
How many universes
Well, at the
are we
moment-
capable of exploring? How many universes do we know about?
At the moment, we have this universe, but in the future, who knows? Maybe
Correct.
there'd be a way to get to other universes.
Then call me back in the future, because if you're not going to answer things honestly, when the obvious answer and everybody in fucking chat is typing one as the obvious answer to this obvious question, which is intended to lead you to expose the bullshit that you're spewing, and instead you start speculating about what might happen in the future, call me back in the future when you have something more than your waste of time speculation. Okay? Thanks. Yeah, I knew what you were getting ready to do, Jacob. Yeah,
Anytime the evidence for God starts with asking us, you agree that blah, blah, blah. It almost never is going anywhere honest, because if you have to start your evidence with this question that neither of us agreed with, I don't feel like you had a full argument prepared. You just had this thing that you needed us to agree with, and then therefore God.
It's kind of like you could do an analogous thing where, because we've only been able to explore life on our planet, all we can do is try and speculate about life elsewhere. And because we know one way in which life currently exists, carbon-based life and self-replicating, molecules and things like that, we can look for the building blocks of life elsewhere in the universe. And we have found some of them. We have found comets, and we've found systems and solar systems that would seem to be positioned to imitate, or at least possibly imitate, life as it is on Earth. But there may be other types of life. This is one of the reasons why I like a variety of science fiction that could be vastly different. And so what Jacob's doing is saying, because we've observed some of the life on this planet, we can then extrapolate and say, hey, there's life somewhere else, and there's life over there, and it's this type of life. Or because Jacob may believe that there's no naturalistic explanation for life, that it must have been created, he can then start making assertions about how there's not life elsewhere because, oh, I know the guy that created it and he didn't do it. It is a tempting thing to say, ooh, the universe had to have a beginning. And if causality that we observe extends to the container that we're in, you would be correct. If, in fact, you could demonstrate that causality outside the universe works the way it appears to work within the universe, and you were able to show that this universe necessarily could not have existed forever, then you would have a true point about causality. But the problem with Jacob's Skull is that we don't know any of that. This is speculation about the nature of causality.
Right.
And the boundaries of it.
And the honest answer is we don't know.
Yeah.
So, and making
which is the answer
up,
you gave and I gave, I believe, right at the bat, which is, when somebody says, hey, do we agree on this? And it's like, no, we don't agree. That doesn't mean we're convinced that it's wrong.
Right.
I don't know of any other universe. I don't know how to explore any other universe. There are certain things that we can speculate about. Hey, if there was another universe, what would it be like? If there was a multiverse that was generating universes, clearly this would be one of them. But what do we know about the others? If our understanding of time is locked into currently the Big Bang cosmology model, where essentially you have T0 is the instant that expansion began, anything else you talk about time before that 0 point doesn't make any sense. When you talk about time outside of our experience, it doesn't make any sense. And if you're going to try and use that to say, oh, this is how I know the universe had a beginning, you've already misdefined things. What you should do is say, I suspect that causality extends prior to, if we were to trace backwards prior to the origin of the universe. I expect that causality extends beyond the boundaries of the known universe. And therefore, I'm just going to go ahead and say that, given my suspicion there, our universe had some kind of impetus, a first cause, something that it is contingent upon. All of those arguments are tied to the same thing: first cause arguments and contingency arguments. Basically, I'm contingent on the universe is contingent on what? And they try to get back to God is the thing that isn't contingent, or God is the thing that didn't have a beginning. But Jacob started off by acknowledging that, yeah, God needs a beginning too. And then he wants to go into Hilbert's Hotel, which is another infinity paradox. And it's, I don't, I worry that somebody finds a mathematical curiosity, be it, infinity as it is in Hilbert's Hotel paradox, or as it is in the various Zeno's paradoxes, or as the ancient Greeks did with 1.816339, towards a golden ratio, or finding irrational numbers that go on forever, all of a sudden it's confusing because your brain can't process it. And we inject magic into that. I mean, we as
Right.
a society, and perhaps without justification. But if you're going
Yeah.
to say, I want to present an argument for the existence of God, or I want to prove a creator God, and then you say everything requires a creator, including the creator God, now you've created a real problem. Because if you are going to make an absolute statement about everything, and you're like, everything requires a creator, including the creator of the universe, and including the creator of the creator of the universe, and including the creator of 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 the universe, now you run into this problem of you can't ever get started. There wasn't a first creator in that model that Jacob's got. And so you either get to a point, and by the way, this is all about regression, which has its own problem of us looking backwards in time rather than following it in the normative direction. And by the way,
Sure.
There's something interesting I saw a week or so ago where scientists have observed negative time. I'm waiting for Dr. Aaron Adair to dig in on that and tell me more about it at a later time because I don't get it. But let's go back to some fun here.
I need him to explain that like I'm 5 because I saw that too and had to stop reading because I was lost instantly.
Hey, do you think this clip just fell out of a coconut tree? No. It did. Okay, now technically I did build the channel into a coconut tree and it did fall out. And also that our internet router is up there. Actually, in a lot of ways, this production fell out of a coconut tree. But we could only afford that because people like you supported us for $5 a month over where is that, Eric?
Patreon.com/call the line, and
that's right.
Jimmy will be grateful. Yeah.
We have an exclusive patron podcast over there. Check it out. Thumbs up with it, Eric. We talked about this in the meeting. We have to both.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go.